I'm Tamika D. Mallory.
And it's your boy Mysonne, the General.
We are your host of TMI.
Tamika and Mysonne's information, truth, motivation, and inspiration.
New name, new energy, but
same old us.
What's up, Mysonne Lennon?
I am blessed, black, and highly favored. I'm still celebrating Juneteenth. Shout out to Actively Black. This shirt is so fire. Like, you got to read this back of the shirt. Because I need y'all to see what it say on the back of this shirt. Read it out loud.
It says, made from cotton grown by black farmers. Oh, ooh. Made from cotton. The shirt is made from cotton. Oh, yeah, they said they're going to send me one of those shirts. That's right.
So shout out to Actively Black for always supporting me. Everything I got on right now is black on. This hat, Ending Carol Coach, is my hat. The sneakers come from Enzo. Shout out to Enzo. They got some of the most comfortable sneakers. So this was on my, black. I'm blackity black.
Some people say that the time period of like the week of Juneteenth is the Jubilee week or Juneteenth week. So black folks, you can't tell us that something is on one day. First of all, it was already being observed by many people, many black folks, before it became a federal holiday. And I remember when Biden first announced that Juneteenth would be a federal holiday. At first, I was kind of like, who asked for this? Like, this is not exactly like what we're looking for in terms of something to address the issues of Black America. And then I heard folks like Roland Martin and our sister Monique Presley and others who are like from Texas and understand the history of the day. And then, Miss Lee, who's the older woman, elderly woman. It's so many different people and they gave a historical perspective, get my words together, about the importance of Juneteenth. And I thought to myself, and then over time, I still wasn't 100% convinced. But then, I guess, after I realized that you wake up in the morning on like this recent Juneteenth, you wake up in the morning and things have to actually be closed. It is definitely going to force children and others to say to their parents, what does today mean? Mm-hmm. It's going to force people to do a little bit of Google searching, and also give people the opportunity to feel a sense of pride, because I see that all over the timeline, even for people who are working. They like, I work at a hospital, so I have to go to work today, but I'm wearing this. I have a pin. I saw that Delta gave people a bracelet. And, shout out to Delta. And this is exactly what I'm talking about as it relates to Target. When people be like, oh, well, so many companies are rolling back DEI. Why just focus on Target? Well, guess what? I also love Delta. I travel Delta. I'm over 1 million mile status. Already. Delta is my airline. And guess what? They are sticking to their DEI strategy and their DEI I don't want to say campaign, their DEI efforts, right? Mm-hmm. And so they gave out a red, black, and green bracelet to riders. That's a big deal, So I now am thinking that the holiday, while it doesn't take the place of the needs of Black America, it certainly is something that will require the world to stop. And especially as they roll back our education, the little piece of slither of Black history that was being taught in schools, and in other places, it makes the world have to stand still and address something that has to do with us, at least now. And it has a story behind it that if you go to Google, it's not just a big old celebratory day. It's really a struggle that our people went through, not even knowing that they were free and how they found out and all of that. So I guess it's a good thing.
I mean, we should have times to celebrate some things, right? We should be able, I think, and I found myself being a victim of it, right? That I want equity, justice, equality so much that I don't want the micro anything. Everything is on a macro level. So we can't even celebrate Juneteenth. People going to be like, Juneteenth, that ain't freedom. Anytime we do something, they say, that ain't freedom. They ain't give you no freedom. And it's like, I know they didn't give me freedom. But it's a day that I can reflect, that I can study the history, understand how my people gained levels of freedom that
That's right.
And understand that and be able to celebrate that. And while I'm celebrating, I'm still fighting on the macro fight, right? So why do we get so caught up in this it's weird. I don't want to be. I don't want to be the black man that's overly mad all the time about everything. And I understand that we have every right to be overly mad about everything. We could be so militant that we don't enjoy nothing, that anything that America gives that's not completely and totally equity, and it's not reparations and all that. If it's not all the way that, we could just say fuck everything. We could. We have every right. But I'm saying, why should we? Why shouldn't we just want to enjoy a little bit of something sometime?
Well, some people will say that we as black folks do so much enjoying and celebrating that sometimes we lose our sense of focus and purpose for what is actually, what will give us lifelong joy. And so, I hear that. I see that. I understand that. As like right now in this time period where the boots on the ground thing is such a big deal and everybody's learning to dance and it's all over social media. It's kind of calmed down now. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you have to get it in the backyard. But at one point it was like really a big deal. And at the same time, people are being kidnapped off our streets by men with masks on their face that don't even have a warrant. We have wars that are developing all around us. Our rights are being rolled back. Our Social Security, our Medicare, Medicaid, all of that is being impacted. You got one body of the federal government voting for any and every damn thing, that crazy stuff like deporting American citizens. Like, it's so much stuff happening. And meanwhile, we out here talking about, I put my boots on the ground, and I get it. We need a moment to be able to decompress. People don't want to live in depression and shock and horror and trauma every second of the day. However, there are a lot of people who are among the boots on the ground community that don't want to pay attention to it at all. And that's where I think things get to be a little
But the
blurry.
thing is, if they don't want to pay attention to it at all, they're not gonna. Right? So you trying to impose your ideology or your understanding about where we should be on somebody who doesn't care as much as you do. It's not changing.
Well, I don't know if they don't care.
Most of them don't care.
Well, I think it's some people just can't handle it in their minds.
And it's not their. It's not that it's not their fight. It's not the way that they fight. Right? Everybody, like, when they say boots on the ground, like, we literally boots on the ground. So for pretty much the last 5 to 6 years, all we've been doing is fighting. Like, sometimes you want to dance to boots on the ground. Just have it and not think boots on the ground means I need to be on the front line. Somebody might die and we got to, like, sometimes you just want to, like you said, decompress. And I think we steal that from people when we talk about Juneteenth and holidays and certain things. And first thing you say, well, they ain't reparations. They ain't really did nothing for you. Like, we don't even get to celebrate any little thing. Any black person, we go, oh, that's just a black face in a hot space. It don't mean, like, nothing means nothing to some of these people. If we haven't had complete control of something, if America has to say, listen, we're going to give you half of America, then nobody black should be celebrating anything. If they put a black person that educated and went up through the ranks and did all the shit, that's just another black place in high space. It don't mean shit to us. It is just like, I don't want to live in that.
I personally think that you are also making it like your definition of how people feel is a little extreme.
It's not to me.
I don't think that those people don't want you to celebrate anything.
Okay, I'm asking you this.
Now, them people on your Instagram cannot. Those are not even those.
But I'm saying there are millions of people. There are so many people that when you talk about any black person who has done something, they'll tell you they ain't shit.
There's not millions of people, but there are some very, very.
There's a very strong dynamic and genre of people that will say that about every black person. I don't give a fuck what you say. Oh, such and such did Obama. Oh, he ain't never did shit for black people. He ain't never did shit for black. I don't care who you say. It just is like we just have to be contrarian.
I don't know if they say that about
who?
Historians or historical figures. Like, I don't think. A lot of people, I've heard some people say, oh, Dr. King didn't do this and that.
Yeah.
But I think there is a consensus around with the majority of black folks, the majority, that Dr. King actually is an important figure. I think about, even the Black Panthers, there is a majority a majority that feel he was important. I think about Malcolm X, a majority. People say Rosa Parks
what I'm
was
trying to say is this,
her,
and this is what I want you to.
her contribution was significant, but when it comes to women, it's like, oh, but she wasn't the only
it's
one.
it's not just because they're black, right? It's when all of these people that you talking about, they were still pretty much in their infantry. They was 30-something years old. They hadn't been elevated to anything. They was pretty much just most of them was still like grassroots. They was pretty much grassroots. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
When you say elevated to anything, what would be the elevation?
Well, the elevation is when none of them gained any power within the system. None of them conquered the system. They was just still people on the ground fighting. And once you start gaining ground and you move past, you just throwing rocks and you start getting, and they give you a medal for something. Now you no longer relevant to our people no more.
I think you just got to be
careful. I'm just being,
because I don't think it's to our people. I think more people, just like we say all the time, with all the hate that we receive, there are more people who are with us, who tell us every time they see us, we with you, we with you. I don't believe that it is to our people. I think it is always good to say to some people, or to a particular faction within our community.
When you listen to Malcolm X, he didn't feel like that. When you listen to Martin Luther King, he didn't feel like that. He felt like they felt like their people hated them.
Well, it's not, I don't think it's their people. I think that what happens with all of us is that we become so concerned and consumed with the 2 or 3 people, and that's all of us. We all do it, the 2 or 3, and then the 100 is like we just kind of, in a way, take them for granted. And the reason why I say that is because I think about something as simple as Instagram comments. I post something, 200 people, or let's say 20 people can make a comment. And it'll be a one person who'll be like, oh, you think you something important because you got a little bit of money and now you turned your back on the community. And I will say to that person, like, why are you on my page? Like, just go away or whatever in response. And meanwhile, the 20 people, 19 other people, I haven't even said thank you, appreciate you, hearts. So we just become consumed at times with the 2 or 3 because they sound loud, but they're really not as loud as the 20 who are really with us. So I think that has something to do with it. And those 2 or 3 people can be harmful. So I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't care about it at all. But I don't think it's true that the majority of our people don't want to see us get medals or whatever. But there is a particular group that if you do anything, if you do a Black History / Women's History Month ad for Cadillac that you didn't even get paid for, they mad. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. So anyway,
I choose Black Joy.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I do as well.
My son graduated yesterday, and I'm going to celebrate that. Shout out to King Cam. He graduated from junior high school. Just watch it. Just knowing that he is almost 14 years old.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy to me.
Wow.
Just holding him in my arms as a baby and just seeing him almost as tall as me right now.
Wow.
It's just amazing. So shout out to him.
Wow.
Proud of you. Love you to life, King.
Congratulations. So that brings me to my thought of the day. And you know what? It's really kind of in keeping. I know y'all hear me talk about rats all the time, so it's kind of like, get over it. People are probably tired of me bringing up this topic. But this is very, very important and a little different for me. Okay.
Let me judge.
So, my birthday, LuShawn Thompson, my dear sister, and I celebrate our birthdays at the same time. People are like, why do y'all have so many events? Well, because it's 2 people who have different friends, which we're all kind of one big family now, but still different friends, different interests, and there's a 10-year age difference, which really is fine because we kind of like the same music. We kind of like to do the same things, but there are some differences between the two groups. And so we merged to do a lot of different fun activities over X amount of days. Now, I don't know about y'all listening out there. And yes, people think because they see us always going somewhere and always doing something that we're always like having fun or doing fun things. But I can't tell you the last time. Last time we went to karaoke, all of us was like 7 months ago. You know, it's not a thing. We don't really get out that often. And so I think during this particular time, June 8th and 9th, my birthday's the 8th, hers is the 9th. I'm 45 now, she's 55. And so during this particular time for the last 4 years, we've been coordinating different activities, parties and stuff where our friends and family come together and enjoy. And so this year, because of that 5 number, we decided to have 5 days of fun. And we planned everything from a little Harlem meet and greet, which ended up turning into a whole party that was crazy at Sylvia's restaurant. The next day was what was it? It was karaoke. Yeah, it was karaoke. And then, you know, Saturday night I had a party. Sunday we had a barbecue at Lushan's new dispensary in Belleville, New Jersey. Shout out to Neve Verde. Please check that out to make sure we get that right. Neve Verde. It's not De Verde. No, it's Verde. Yeah, because that means green. Right. Okay. So Neve Verde in Belleville. Beautiful, beautiful dispensary. She's got all the flavors, and there was a barbecue there. And then we went out to Caviar Restaurant in Edgewater, New Jersey. And then on Monday, we had, Lushan had her birthday party at Row House in Harlem. And then we went back to Row House the next day because SNS is so good. And so we were just out. So it ended up being 6 nights, actually. And so in the process of putting all this together, you know, that's the joy of my life. Finding a lot of Black-owned spaces, or at least trying to get things in certain parts of the community where we can support the local economy. That's, you know, that would be the ideal situation. Similar to when we did Bahamas last year, we try to make sure we pick out the Black-owned restaurants and experiences, the DJs, the whomever. So that's, you know, a big thing. So when we were trying to figure out a place for karaoke, the place that we wanted to go was like super expensive. You get nothing included. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I looked up online and found that in Harlem, there is a place that has karaoke on Friday nights. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. So I contact the man, and you had to go over there, and you went over there, you know, whatever happened. We get all the details, and we say, we're going to use this small kind of club like lounge setting to do our karaoke. I get a whole arrangement with the guy. Lushan and I are like, this is perfect. So when arriving at the place, the front door, this is when I'm going to pay the deposit. So I get there, and the front door of this venue is shattered. And so I pick up the phone and I call the owner from the front door. I haven't even walked inside. There's a big security guard outside because they're getting ready for their evening opening for their fair. Mm-hmm. And so when I walk up and I see the door is shattered, I contact the owner immediately to be like, hey, I'm at your spot. I'm coming to bring the deposit, but I noticed that the front door is shattered. Are you planning on getting this fixed? And he says, no. He's like, no, I'm not fixing it. He's like, that door has been like that for 5 years since COVID. And he's like, there's nothing wrong with it. If you touch the door, you'll see that it's not like shattered to the touch. The shatter is on the inside of the like plexiglass. It's basically a bulletproof glass. So he's like, no, it's not, you know, I'm not planning on doing anything. He said, I can't afford it. Okay, so cool. So I'm like, okay. Me, the type of person that I am, I would walk away right now just by the idea that the front door is not presentable for me to bring a crowd of people here. But it's in Harlem. I'm like, you know what? We're not going to make this a big deal. People will talk about it for 2 seconds, but once they get inside, it's great karaoke. We have food and drinks. It's going to be great. That was error number 1 on my part. Right there, I already made a mistake. So anyway, I go inside and there's a woman in there. She's getting the bar set up. I give her the money for the deposit. She takes it. She's now, and I'm still talking to the owner, like, oh, well, and I tell him, I said, this is not a good representation of your business. And, oh, okay, well, I'm not fixing it. Okay, cool. He wasn't nasty, but just still talking back and forth. So I go and I say, okay, I'm putting the money in the bartender's hand. She says to me, well, how much is the, she said, what is your name? What's the date and time? So she's getting her paper to write the details down, which gives me time to inspect and look all around. And as I turn my face to the side, a rat runs this way and then something over here goes, and I'm like, oh my God. So I jump up and down a little bit. I didn't do too much, but I was like, oh my God. And then it occurs to me, the owner's still on the phone. And it occurs to me, get your money back. So I asked the lady, I'm like, thank you. So just as quick as the money went in her hand, let me have it back. And I say to the owner, sir, you have rats in here. And he goes, a rat? Oh, and she says, oh, where is it? No one is upset. No one is like, oh my God, we're so sorry. No one's like that. And then I say, okay, thank you. I'm out of here. He goes, okay, that's it. It's not a big deal. It's not, nobody is stressed about this rat.
But you.
But me, rat or rats or whatever. So my thought of the day here is that the presentation of how you operate and how you maintain your business is more than likely an indication of what's going on inside. So how people will look at you and say, well, just because that person doesn't dress neat and clean or keep their hair neat and clean or, whatever, it doesn't mean that they're dirty or whatever. But generally, how you look on the outside or how a business especially looks on the outside has a lot to do with what's going on the inside. So as soon as I walked up and saw that the door was shattered to this place, it should have been an indication to me that the inside of this venue is not being kept up, because he does not even have the respect for his business to say, I don't want it to look crazy. Now, it happens to be in Harlem, and the corner that it's on in Harlem, it's a little wild over there. Like, a lot of things go on in that area. And so he doesn't have respect for the community that he would say, I need to make sure my business looks up to, it has good upkeep or whatever. So why would I ever think that I could go inside of there and that his kitchen would be clean, that his glasses and, silverware, the utensils or whatever, the bathrooms or whatever are being kept to a particular standard. But now here's the real kicker. That part is, in and of it's just one thing. But this is the other part of my thought of the day. I got a 2-part thought of the day today. I don't know whether this man is black or not, but I thought twice about, and I still have decided I'm not going to say the name of the place, but if people know on Friday nights a place in Harlem has karaoke, they'll figure it out. And it's packed in there. Packed. Okay. Mm-hmm. But what I was thinking was, because he may be black, I did not want to put it on my platform to where he might lose business. But then I thought to myself, if that same business owner had his space was on 125th Street or 42nd Street or 96th Street or some other place, he could not keep that door shattered that way. Mm-hmm. He would not be able to keep his door that way because the community would demand something different from him. Mm. So rats get into any venue. You could go to the best restaurants in New York and other cities where they have rat issues. And especially if things are being kept in the basement, you may run into a rat. Like, sometimes they come out, sometimes, you see it in videos. They running around the restaurant, one done fell out the vents. Things happen. I'm not saying they don't. But his space is ranky dank. Like, even when going inside, I'm like, damn, I can't believe that I'm having an event in here. But I also know that our crowd is not so bougie that they can't do a good hood night. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could do a good hood night. but we do not have to subject ourselves to rats and vermin and doors being shattered. Yeah. And because I have a tendency to try to, I don't want to say shrink myself, but I try to check myself because all of y'all say, oh, Tamika, you always, got a problem with everything. You always see everything. Why you always got to know that this and that and the third? Just enjoy yourself. Let your hair down. And so I started to have a little bit of a complex about how I want things to be at a certain level. And as a result of that, I allowed myself to walk in a place to force myself to do something that I really didn't want to do off the front door, but I still tried. And what I ended up learning, it reaffirmed for me what I know, is that if it don't look right from the beginning, it ain't no sense in going down the road, because each time you're going to end up finding out that your first instincts about it was the right instinct.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that you definitely are very critical, super critical of things. But in this instance, you aren't. When you walked in there and the rat was there, the thing was broken. Like, when you told me something, like, what? Like, it didn't even make sense to me. That somebody would, and the fact that he had no real care. Right. Like, his response was, oh, really? Oh, okay. All right, don't worry about it, and just take the money back. Like you said, if it was in a different area within Harlem, he would have cared more because the community would have commanded and demanded more from him.
Right.
And I think that's what happens in our communities and a lot of our establishments, is that the community doesn't require that.
Right.
The people wherever he's at, it's like, oh, it's just a little hood spot. We gonna go in there. We don't. They might see a rat. They might not.
No, I don't think the rat would be okay to most communities.
I don't think the rat.
They're not even paying attention to that
probably
because they don't go there at the time.
But there's probably no way that nobody's seen a rat in there before. It had to.
At least once.
Come on, people have seen rats in there, and it ain't stopping people from going there.
But also, I think another part of it is that when he says he can't afford to change the door, that's a lie. Because everybody I know said that, well, it's 2 or 3 things that he has. He has a karaoke night that's packed, and that particular venue is very LGBTQIA friendly. And so at times there will be parties in there or other moments when it's like an entire LGBTQIA crowd. And I know that for that community to find places where they feel safe and protected and they can have a good time, it's not that many, because different places, people make you feel a way. You don't like the way the staff talks to you. The owner is not really. And so when you find a place that's like, okay, this is cool, there, people will go there. So I'm saying that that's at least 2 audiences right there that I know for a fact.
But you had enough to get a door.
Right. So you could have gotten the door.
It's just not a priority.
But it's not, and it's not a priority because we as a people and the community that he's in, to your point, have not demanded that you can't be here and operate your business in our neighborhood unless it is up to a certain standard. And I, it's funny because, as you know, our homegirl works for the city of New York. Excuse me. As you know, our girlfriend Tiffany works for the city of New York. She is actually a deputy mayor. And so I call her and I'm like, Tiffany, let me tell you what happened. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really want to report the man because it might be a black venue. And then, people always like, oh, we got to give black people a chance.
Some grace.
Right. Some grace. And so I tell her, so I'm like, what you think? She's like, let me be clear with you, because first of all, Tiffany does not do discrimination of accountability, okay? She wants everybody to be accountable.
The law.
And she with the law, and the rules are the rules, okay? So if you go in a white-owned restaurant or Asian-owned restaurant and there's a rat, she want that reported, and she also want the black people reported, and she sends me. Anytime I call Tiffany and tell her that anything happened, Tiffany will send me 311. She's like, call 311 and report the details. So I said to her in the text message, on the conversation, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And she said, listen, let me be very clear with you. There are restaurants in Harlem, lounges and venues, and she knows because they get the inspection report, that they don't have rats. And even if they get one from the front door, they work hard. The inspectors are there. The extermination people are there. There is a constant effort to keep that type of stuff out of their establishments. If those people can do it, so can Mr. So-and-so on whatever street. It is not acceptable. And there are people who are maintaining their establishments in the same neighborhood. You got Ponte Bistro. Ponte Bistro is right down the street from this place. And guess what? We know, because we know PB Brasserie, he has other restaurants, the chef from there. He don't play about that. He don't play about rats and rodents and all of that. So I just felt a way, because I realized that, I on one hand, I'm like, I want to be careful and mindful of the struggle of our business. I still don't even know if the man is black, but I want to be careful and mindful of the struggle of our businesses, but also how do we as a community ensure that there's a level of accountability? What do we do about that at the same time while trying to have grace?
Standard of just decency, right? We should have community-based organizations that care enough to provide a clean and healthy space for our people.
Yeah, and we do have community boards. We do have that. And it's like, that should be a part of the focus. But guess what? A lot of times these community boards have people on them who are very much so older, right?
And then some just be janky.
Well, no, I'm talking about community boards, the community boards that are responsible. A lot of them are older people. Like, so much love to my godmother, your what would you say? She's like an auntie to you and to all of us. Hazel Dukes. She was on every damn community, everything you could think of. But when she passed away, she was 92 years old. Yeah. So she's on the community board, but she don't go to the local club. So she don't have a clue what's going on at the local spot. If she did know, you already know. Hazel gonna be like, this door needs to be changed, or we gonna be outside every day and you won't even be able to open and operate. Yeah. Exactly. But if she doesn't know, because it's not her area, it's not some place that she frequents, then how does she and other people, because I bet you everybody else on the community board is 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. We have to take on that responsibility. At 30, 40, even 20 years old, we have to show up for our communities.
It's true.
So, because you can't blame the people who are on the community board. They're going to make sure the senior centers are good. They're going to make sure the garbage is being picked up. They're going to make sure that the safety issues are concerned. Exactly. The safety issues are addressed. They're going to make sure that the police deal with the people in the community a certain way to the extent they can. That, they're going to see to it that the grocery store is there, but they don't know to go check the front door and the inside cleanliness of the local club.
Well, I hope the local club owner hears this and realizes that we're talking about you, so we don't have to say who you are. Just do better, man. We want decency in our community. It shouldn't be rats and shattered windows. We should want our communities to represent us properly.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's what we want him to do. But I think that is true. But moreover, I just want to know, it's not so much for him, because I'm sure he won't hear this, because he don't sound like that type of person. But it's more so for people who are listening, who I know go to that place. And will we demand something different?
Makes sense.
So there's that. All right. Well, that was long and drawn out, but
but it made sense. You had to get the story had to be told that way to get the full synopsis.
Yeah. I could have just said, I went to a place in Harlem and this is what happened. But if the color around everything is what makes it special. That's why, because somebody would say well, what the hell would you be going to the place in Harlem on the corner of X Street for anyway to have a party? Well, we're trying to have a hood night, so it makes sense.
A good old hood night.
A good old hood night. That brings me to, let's see, what's next? TMI. Well, some people say it's a split decision here, okay? 6,000 comments on one post. I just happened to see this in my 2 a.m. musings. There's a man who has been taking care of a young girl, which is his wife's daughter, since she was 4 months old. Came into the daughter's life by way of meeting the mother when the child was 4 months, and I think they got married once the child was 2 years old. Okay. Now, when it comes graduation time for this young lady to go to college, or at least to get out of high school, she has graduation, and she does not prioritize having her stepfather at the graduation. Okay. In fact, who ended up being there is the actual biological father and some other people. Now, there were folks, you know, I when I heard that the father, the actual biological father was there, I was kind of like, okay, well, you know, that makes sense to me. And then they said there were 8 tickets. 8 tickets is not only, because it said, oh, the father wrote a whole post about it. The stepfather wrote a post about it. And he said, and then I learned there were only 8 tickets. I'm like, 8 tickets is a lot of tickets, right? That's a lot of tickets. And if you've been taking care of a child since they were 4 months old, and particularly married to the mother, not like we met and then I just kept the relationship with them while I was no longer with the mother, but no, they actually are still currently married. Mm-hmm. That is a significant relationship. But when it came time to distribute the tickets, they went to the mother's sisters, the girl's boyfriend, I think the grandmother, an uncle, and the biological father, and of course the mother. So the 8 tickets were taken, and the stepfather was not given a ticket, so he was not allowed to go. So he was so upset and hurt about it that he said, well, now she's grown. I'm taking her off my car insurance and my health insurance and whatever other things that he did for her. And he said, now, you know, since I wasn't chosen, now if she needs somewhere to go, she should go stay with her father, and she doesn't have to be on my insurance benefits. So like I said, 6,600 comments on one post about this. And of course, when you read the comments, it's very split. I actually saw Jamel Hill, who said that his feelings are valid, but his actions went too far. And it was a lot of people like that. But then Little Mo was in the comments like trolling, being funny as she is, but nonetheless, basically saying that she agreed that he was supposed to take it to that extreme because what they did to him was wrong. And then a lot of people blamed it on her mother, right? They were like, her mom was supposed to take care of that. It's her fault. You have all these different perspectives. And I guess the TMI, like who's doing too much in this situation, the question for everybody is, do people not understand where he's coming from? And I'll give my opinion. I would say that I don't know if I would have in that moment said, I'm taking you off my insurance and all of that, because it is certainly a way to show like you're trying to retaliate based upon your feelings immediately. I do think, though, that this young lady is still a child. And later on in life, she will realize that something should have been done about the arrangement here to ensure that her stepfather was able to be there, including having her boyfriend meet her after the graduation instead of having to be there and have that ticket. I don't know the situation with all her family members, her grandmothers and aunts. Maybe they are very close family. Yeah. Personally, 2 aunts, I don't feel 2 aunts need to be there. We need to make a choice as a family that one aunt is going to go, and or the boyfriend is not going to go, but somebody needs to fall back to make space. There's no way that 8 people should have attended that graduation and not allow a man who has been there. He said that it's caused turmoil in his house because he took her off his insurance. And I kind of feel like they're taking advantage of him. But I would say that we have to be mindful not to react to everything in the moment, because it gives the impression that you kind of are dangling money and things over her head. Although insurance is not just money, that is me taking care of you a certain way, and I think this is where I differ from some people, because it seems that people are targeting her biological father being the one who should have been replaced. I don't agree with that. I don't know the relationship, but the mere fact that he was there, I'm just going to assume that they have a decent relationship, that he may not be able to afford insurance and things of that nature, but nonetheless, he was there, so there must be some relationship. I think both dads should have been there, but our aunt needed to step back, and the boyfriend absolutely could have met me right outside as soon as I come outside of the graduation.
It should be based on the relationships. If her biological father, although he probably wasn't able to take care of, he's been in her life and they have a very strong relationship.
Or a decent relationship.
Right? Then he has the right to be at her graduation. But if I marry a woman who has a child and his father hasn't been present, and then probably just recently you're trying to rekindle a relationship, I'm just telling you me. I'm saying if.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't want to I want to assume
But
better.
You can't assume because...
I want to assume because he didn't say that man hasn't been there.
But he's saying he's been taking care of...
Right, but that doesn't mean that the other dad wasn't there.
But to say that he's been taking care of a child since, the child was...
Infant.
Mm-hmm. Since the infant means that for me to be saying I'm taking care, that must mean somebody else wasn't taking care. Because if I'm taking care of you and for me to say that means I know that this person hasn't been present. That's the only way that I would have this level of, okay, then if that's how you feel, then cool. Because he didn't say you chose your boyfriend over me, you chose other people. He believes that he's been more of a father to her than her biological father. Because he said you chose to allow your biological father to come, so cool. So that's what his issue was. It wasn't the other people that came, because he probably felt like those people are significant. He probably felt like this man hasn't been present this whole time. I've been working, hustling, doing everything I got to do to make sure that you survive, and then now he come in the picture and it supersedes me because he has your biological, and it's cool and I understand it, but now I feel like you don't value me at all. Right, I feel like
you would just jump up and take the insurance, off the car insurance.
No, I wouldn't just jump up and take. But moving forward, I would acknowledge that, right? And then when I start making decisions, I can't prioritize you in the way that you don't prioritize me, right? I want to do the best for you, and cool. I would let you know first of all, it hurt my feelings, and then moving forward, I would have to I have to treat the relationship has to be equal to me. And you can't hurt somebody's feeling. If I'm thinking you might do, pretty much he's thinking this is his daughter. Since an infant, he's raised as a daughter. And to feel like you don't value me, and because this man shows up now, because that happens. There are situations where it happens. And you have to acknowledge, I don't even know if as a father, a biological father, I can't really see a situation where I wouldn't be there for my kids, unless when I was in prison. And when I was in prison, this is real shit to me, right? When I was locked up, my son's mother had a man that she was with. She was with him, and he pretty much raised my son for 7 years when I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And then when I came home and I was still getting myself on my feet, he was still taking care of my son like he was his mom. He provided things that I wasn't to, and I respected that man. And I told him, and I told her I respect him, right? And I felt that he had to be like when we graduation thing. I made sure that everybody know that I'm not uncomfortable with him being there, because that man provided, and he provided.
But that's what I'm saying. Both dads should be present,
and that's what I'm trying to say. So
because you don't know what the circumstance, and I want to believe the best that maybe the dad, like you said, was in prison, or maybe not. Let's take that off of his name. Maybe he just didn't have the resources. And if you living in the house with a child, automatically it makes you have a certain type of relationship with that child. Now, when your insurance and different things, you put them on because that's your wife's child who lives with you.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
So I'm saying that the boyfriend doesn't need to be there. But like Jamie, my best friend, said, when we was young, we was stupid. We ain't even going to the graduation if our boyfriend can't come.
But that's not.
That's the type of stuff we would say.
Yeah,
no, I'm talking about we, as in young girls.
Listen to me. It doesn't make sense, okay. And I understand the man's frustration, and just based off the fact that he pointed out the father, he believes that father hasn't done nearly enough to actually be able to supersede him
for a ticket. Okay, I think two aunties. If I was two aunties, I would say, I'm going to stay back and get the dinner together, straighten out the restaurant or whatever, get the balloons. But I don't need to go because one of the
mother should have
one of
regulated
the aunties has to be.
What grade was she in?
She graduated in high school. That's why he said you grown now.
The mother was supposed to regulate that though. Like,
Everybody said that. I feel like that's true, but I also
because it caused so much turmoil in your household.
The auntie was supposed to say, make sure that I'll stay at the house and get everything together.
If that's your husband and it's the person that pays the bills and the tranquility in your home, you allowed this young girl who's making a decision that she don't even understand the dynamics of that decision to affect your home. Like your insurance, like you know how serious people dying about insurance. People ain't got no insurance, car insurance, what? Medical insurance, like come on, it's crazy. Like,
well, I feel for the man. I hope that they find a way to work
I feel
it
for
through,
the family.
but somebody needs to apologize to that man.
Yeah.
We sorry, sir. Well, we have a friend, and we also have a person who has a sore throat and is eating, what's those things called? Halls, and we can hear it in the microphone. The mic is hot. You might be a little bit off, just a little off. But anyway, our brother, our friend, Elliot Connie is joining us for this episode where we're talking about men's mental health awareness. I didn't know that June is Men's Mental Health Month. We should have done some more stuff. Like, you learn these months. I don't know where the months be coming from, but they got dates and months and sibling day and this day and that day. You got to try to keep up. We need a calendar around here.
Yeah, it's a lot going.
But anyway, Elliot Connie is a psychotherapist. He also, as far as I'm concerned, is a therapist to all of us in the movement because everybody be calling him on the low. When nobody tells anybody, but everybody knows you call Elliot Connie when you're in trouble with some mental health issues. But he also is our podcast sibling at the Black Effect Podcast Network. He has a show called Family Therapy and has been a guest on our show before. We've been guests on his show.
That's right.
And it's good to have our brother Elliot Connie with us today. We need some kind of Thanks for joining us, brother.
No problem. It's good to be here. I love y'all both.
Yes. Thank you for coming on. So we were actually just talking about something, and I just wanted to get your take on it. We generally don't. Well, sometimes we do ask our guests to lean into other topics that are on the show for this week or that particular week. And this week we were talking about on our TMI segment, which is a segment where we discuss whether or not people are doing too much or some folks are like, no, actually, what they did was just right. Yeah. The response to this issue was a man who was not able to attend the graduation of his stepdaughter, who is currently married to her mother. So he's currently married to her mother. He's known this child since she was 4 months old. And he mentions that now that she's grown, so when he says now that she's grown, I know that this is not a graduation for elementary school or middle school. This is a high school graduate at least. I hope not college. I'm sure it's got to, come on. It's got to be high school. I don't know. It's got to be high school. And so he was not able to go. There were 8 tickets allotted to the families for the graduation, and he was not one of those individuals. But the biological father was allowed to go. And so he said that, he was so upset about it. His feelings were so hurt. When he got home, he took his stepdaughter off of his health insurance, his car insurance, and whatever other things he was doing for her. He said she can go live with her father since she's grown now, go stay with him. And so that gives Mysonne the impression that the father had not been showing up in a certain type of way for this young lady's life. I said, let's try to look at it that the father has been around and perhaps he just didn't have the resources to be able to take care of the child. But nonetheless, stepdad is really, really upset and just wondering when we're talking about men's mental health, this man is obviously hurt, very hurt. And I just wanted to know if you were counseling him, what would you say? And would you be in agreement with him to just cut his stepdaughter off of all of the health benefits and financial benefits just like that because he's upset?
Absolutely not. I don't think it really matters whether or not the biological father has been showing up or not. I think the bigger issue is we have a tendency to treat children as if they are like miniature adults. And I have no problem with this stepfather having hurt feelings, but he needs to understand that though this child is likely 18, I agree with you. This is probably, I think it was a high school graduation. I saw the story. He has every right to have hurt feelings, but he has to address it as an adult and explain to this stepdaughter that he has hurt feelings. And we have to understand that even though the biological father, let's say the biological father wasn't around, children will live their lives in pursuit of approval and connection from their biological parent. Mm-hmm. And this might be an attempt for this child to get that. Now, is she doing the right thing? Probably not. And he has a justifiable reason to have his feelings hurt, but he's now taking it out on the child, and he's making the child's life worse and more complicated. And when you marry this woman and take on the responsibility of raising that child, you are taking on the responsibility of being good for her and to her, even while you have hurt feelings. Now, stepdaughter or not, like the two of you have children, and sometimes your children hurt your feelings. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your children will do and or say things that hurt your feelings, but you have a responsibility to be there for the child and make the child's lives better. And he is not doing that right now. He has hurt feelings. He's acting from a place of hurt, behaving in a very petty way. And this girl, she's going to grow up and realize, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. But you've got to allow her the ability to grow up and stop treating her as a little miniature adult, because she's not. She doesn't know what she's doing.
Well, so I'm going to give a little pushback. When my son got to a certain age, when he was grown and he started to talk to me or do things that were disrespectful to me, to where you start hurting me, hurting my feelings, I told him, you got to get out. I'm not paying no more bills. You need to find you somewhere to go, right? So as much as I understand what you're saying, but if this man made a decision that this is a grown woman now, she made a decision on her own that I wasn't valuable enough to go to that graduation, and all the other people, the other 8 people she allowed to go there, were more important than me, then my resources and my home shouldn't be as important to you, right? You like. And then I'm saying maybe I probably wouldn't do that in this situation, but if I felt disrespected, because I've kicked my son out, like at 18 years old, you got to go somewhere else, and didn't feel a way. And when you realize who I am, and you're going to treat me like a man in my house, but you can't stay in my house and disrespect me and disregard me. So I hear what you're saying, that at that point, once you graduate, then you made a decision that you're a grown person, and you make grown person decisions and choices. So
well,
I get to make those.
You made a decision just because you graduated that you're grown.
No, when you made a decision that I'm going to invite the people I want at this graduation.
But what about if her mother probably helped control the list? See, that makes it a little bit different.
But regardless of what, if you and your mother, and this is what I'm saying, cool, y'all got it.
You got to stop until you finish eating that. Yeah. Or you want a tissue?
Stop.
Because you like slurring. I'm telling you, I know you're not going to want that. So you want to just finish real quick? Yeah.
It's not going to be real quick.
Oh, okay. Well, so you need a paper.
I just need you to know it ain't going to be no real quick.
Okay. All right. Well, I just still, I don't know, because I feel like, again, I told you, the boyfriend probably, because of the makeup of the guest it says her 2 sisters. So I think I may be wrong that it's not the 2 aunts, it's the 2 sisters that are the girl's biological sisters.
Right.
An uncle, an aunt, a boyfriend, a grandparent, the biological father, and the mother. Right? And so of all those people, I could now if it's not 2 aunts, I could kind of see how they looked at that whole list and said, who are we going to kick out? Because you're not kicking my boyfriend off, because I'm not even going to the whole graduation if my boyfriend can't go.
Well, your boyfriend need to pay for your car insurance and health insurance.
Elliot,
but here's my response to my son's pushback, which I actually agree. Like, I understand where you're coming from. But there are 2 variables, and just from reading the story, I don't actually have the context for these 2 variables. But the first one is, in your situation, my son, like, my guess is you have talked to your son about, like, in essence, he was breaking rules that you had taught him not to break. And then he gets to the point where he continuously breaks them. And you say, well, if you're going to keep doing this, I'm now perceiving this as disrespect and you need to go live someplace else. And I don't know whether or not the stepfather overtly told the child, if you do this, I will feel disrespected and thus will take an action. And then the second thing that my son's children, this particular child doesn't have is a stepdad. So my son is the biological father, and step parents add a level of, because what do I do with that? If I'm 18 years old and I got an 18-year-old brain, what do I do with the fact that I love my stepdad and I'm so appreciative of the role they played in my life? But I love my biological father. And even if he wasn't there, I want this connection. So what do I do with that as an 18-year-old? And also, maybe I'm being influenced by mom, being influenced by these aunts. Like, there's so much context that we don't have. But I will say the responsibility is always with the adult. So the stepdad, I hope the stepdad had a conversation with this daughter leading up to this moment, the stepdaughter leading up to this moment. And B, I would like to know that this person is capable of being a bigger person and at least having empathy for the complicated situation that all stepchildren find themselves in.
I understand, but I just want us to have empathy and understand that if a man raises a child as his own, pretty much since they're 4 months old, and you make putting somebody on your insurance and your health insurance, that's a different thing. Like, you don't just put people on your health insurance.
What you said, people dying out
people
here for
die,
health
like
insurance.
health insurance, cars, like these are real things. So you're paying, like you're paying a lifetime bill, something that affects your life and their life. You connected somebody in your life, right?
Yeah.
So when you've connected somebody in your life in that manner, and to know that they didn't see the other four, maybe the aunt or uncle, one of them saying, hey, I know you, look, we're going to let you live stream it. But this person right here,
my son,
this person right here been paying these bills and this tuition and whatever ever for his whole life. And I know he would love to see me be here. That's a conversation that somebody should have had. That should have been, I'm just saying, in my opinion, and they may have had, and maybe he shouldn't have done what he done, but I'm just trying to say that he was not wrong for how he feels, and maybe his reaction is completely, is not how I would have done it, but I can't say that he's wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. I
100% believe that he had every right to have his feelings hurt. He just shouldn't have taken that action. And the reason I keep saying that the onus is on the adult, like, children don't immediately understand all the sacrifices it takes to raise them.
They don't.
So we understand what paying somebody's car insurance and life insurance is, but both of you, I'm sure in your older years, you were like, oh man, now I understand what it was like for my mother to do this, this, or this.
Yeah.
But and at 18, I didn't have that perspective.
Right.
I didn't have that. So this stepdaughter 100% should have invited the man that raised her. And if she was sitting right here, I would say to her, you've got to find a way to honor your feelings about both dads. At 18, she doesn't know how to appreciate car insurance. She doesn't know how to appreciate medical insurance.
They don't understand any of that.
Man,
but it's a good segue into a broader conversation around, when you're as we're talking about men's mental health. And man, just on social media alone, it's a whole mental health situation. Like I want the whole internet to just shut down for a few days. I'm like, can we have a COVID go through the internet? No, don't kill anybody, but just shut the thing down, because there's so much. It's a cesspool of people's emotions and feelings and what so many different people are going through. And I wonder about this idea of, co-parenting or parenting, stepdads and families. And you see so many men, especially when you're coming up on Father's Day, saying that they don't feel appreciated, or they feel like everything is about the mother. And, I think I saw somewhere that the number of like the revenue for Father's Day is so much lower than it is for Mother's Day. And you have so many men who's like, yeah, get your socks. And it's like a joke. Like, my cousin wrote something on his page and it made me sad But it was like he wrote it like a joke, like, oh, hey, everybody, make sure you get your socks, Dad. You know, mom gets a watch, dad gets socks. And I wonder, when you're dealing with your clients, especially with men, is this a real thing, or is it that men just don't know how to ask for what they want? Because mom's like, I want to watch.
I think it's both, actually. I think it is a real thing, but I also think that men don't always know how to ask for that thing that they want, and they don't always know how to be vulnerable and say, this is how I need to experience your love, and this is how I need to experience that you care about me. So children don't always grow up knowing what to do. But one of the things I often talk about with my clients, it's funny, I just had a conversation with a client yesterday who's a dad and in a very difficult situation. But we need to understand we're parenting for the life cycle. Like you didn't have that child hoping that you'd get a watch for Father's Day. You had that child with a much bigger picture. And our reward is watching our children, and particularly young boys, grow up to be the kind of men that we can respect and value, and know that the type of children that command respect. And on some level, like, we've got to just parent through the life cycle and understand it was never about socks in the first place.
It was never.
I know it's tough when you don't get a pair of socks, right? Because that's why I can identify with the man, right? Even as a stepfather, but as a father, the real father, we put so much emphasis on making sure that the mother is satisfied on Mother's Day, catered to, and for
right.
somehow there's just this level of disregard for Father's Day. Like they just don't see the need to. They might tell you Happy Father's Day, you know. They don't even see the need to write you a card, give you just, you know. You have sons that won't say, hey, I'm going to take you out for this, or I'm going to buy you a hat. I know you, something that you like. Hey, let's go get something to eat. Like, we that's not a thing. It's just not. And it's not that, and I don't think it's because they don't care. I just think that it has never been taught to them to value it in that manner.
But I think it's deeper than that, my son. I think men traditionally take on the role of provider, and this is a byproduct of being the provider. Because if all childhood you are providing for the home, that includes their mother. And you are not the recipient of providership. You are the provider. So when it comes time to take care of you, that's just not how the system is conditioned. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying this is a byproduct of being a provider.
It's a byproduct of being a provider. And do you think vulnerability has something to do with it as well? That, you know, I saw you breaking up. You know, that maybe, like you said, they haven't been taught, because the man is not necessarily bringing up that, hey, I would like to have, you know, people celebrate me for my birthday, because it's not just Father's Day, even
right.
birthdays and other special days. You have a lack, if you will, of interest, the same way that it is for women. And so do you think that vulnerability is just an issue across the board for men in many different ways that allows men to fall into a place of like feeling, let's see, like having animosity that's never addressed, which creates all types of anger issues, so on and so forth?
Absolutely. I think men, and particularly Black men, perceive vulnerability as a showing of weakness. So a lot of Black men won't advocate for themselves and won't say, hey, my birthday's coming up and last year y'all got me socks. I would really like it if I got something that showed me how much you value my energy, effort, and time. And just most men don't say that because they'd rather be perceived as I don't need anything because I'm the provider.
Yeah. So anyway, we went down a rabbit hole that was never our intention, but it just, you know, it came. But
I'll say one more thing before we unrabbit hole. And I'll use my son as an example. I've been a fan of this dude from his rap days 20 years ago. And as I've gotten to know him more recently, like, my son is a very strong, principled man. Right? My son, is it fair for me to call you that?
Yes, it is.
And I saw a video of you one time where you did not like Nike's response to Kyrie Irving, and you put all of your Nikes down in an incinerator.
Yep.
And I was like, this dude truly stands on what he believes in a very principled way. And I respect that about you, even if you stand on certain principles that I may or may not agree with. Like the fact that you live how you talk and you talk how you live. I would be willing to bet if, as a father, if my son only gets socks every birthday and every Father's Day, but observes his children growing up in an equally principled manner because that's the role model that they watched, he would feel successful and valued as a dad. So that's why I say I think that we need to look at it in a much bigger scope.
Our blessings and our gifts come differently.
Right. Exactly. And that's because our responsibilities and our roles are different. So thus what we get is different. Like we can't really say, I want to be treated like the other parent when your roles and responsibilities within the dynamic are different. But if we raise a child, in this case, I'll just use a son as an example. And, 20 years from now, my son is in his 60s and, growing older, and he observes his son holding his morals and principles and values in the way that my son role modeled for him, that would be far more valuable than socks.
This is true. This is true.
And I think that's the purpose, and that's how we get rewarded. And quite frankly, we can't expect the same rewards when our responsibilities are not the same.
This is true.
Yeah, that's going to be the title of this show, More Than Socks. That's what we're going to call it. But More Than Socks is Mental Health Awareness Month for men. And would love to just hear from you. What have you been doing this month? Working with your clients? How are you honoring Mental Health Awareness Month for men?
Man, it's all people ask me that every time it's Mental Health Awareness Month or Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. People ask me that, and for me, it's not really any different. Like this month, I have been in I've traveled the world, and in the past 3 weeks, I've been in Poland, I've been in the UK, I've been in Canada, I've been in Durango, Colorado. I'm now in Los Angeles. I've been in, I can't even think. I've been in all these places because mental health drives everything that I do. And that's not changed by any particular month. That's not changed by any particular day. Every single client has my cell phone. I respond to their phone calls and text messages because mental health, it's part of everything that I do. I decided to make this my life, and I live that as if it's my life every single day, regardless of whatever month it is. So what do? The same thing I always do. I get on these airplanes and I go to Poland and I go to England and I go to Toronto and I go to LA, and I am constantly doing sessions when I'm on Zoom and all these crazy places, and I'm taking people's phone calls because I love people and I love our people. And I think our culture from a mental health perspective is wildly underserved. So my whole purpose is I want to make sure that people know that you can make very subtle, small changes in your life and change your whole lived experience. And for me, that's all mental health is about. It's like changing the way you live your life to change your entire lived experience. And that's the same for me in January as it is in December and every month in between.
There's Black people in Poland, and there are Black people in these places that you've been traveling to.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are Black people in those places, but also something that's very, very important to me. I exist in academic spaces where there are not a lot of Black people. And I think it's very important that Black students see the Black man giving a keynote at the predominantly white conference so that they know there are no spaces where we can't go, and there's no spaces where we can't influence, and there's no spaces where we can't go and be our authentic selves. When I go and do these keynotes, I'm wearing clothes that represent where I'm from. Like I think it is incredibly important that young Black students see that there is no space we cannot go and have influence.
That's amazing. Do you have a therapist?
No, not currently.
Not currently. Okay. I want to ask a very controversial question.
Oh shit. Okay.
Because I follow you, so I listen to you, and there were people coming out talking about Cassie.
Yes.
And you made a post, and people were saying that she was complicit and this and that, and you made a post and you explained pretty much I want you to tell what you explained, right? And then after you give a little bit of synopsis of that, I want to know: do you feel like Diddy has mental health that somebody should pay attention to, or should have some level of accountability to what's happening? Because when I look at when I look at both situations, I think there are two people who are dealing with mental health, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we look at the power dynamics and we just ignore the fact that this man was on drugs. This man was definitely dealing with levels of insecurity, all of these things. And I don't know what his background is, his child upbringing, but I want to know if you feel that he has mental health that could kind of be able to relate to what has happened in this situation.
Well, it's funny, bro. You ask a controversial question, I'm going to give you a controversial answer probably. But what I try to explain to people is I got really irritated because I saw a lot of people attacking Cassie. Mm-hmm. And for me, it is irrelevant whether or not Cassie got paid. It is irrelevant whether or not Cassie was using Diddy for a music career. None of that gives him the right to assault her.
100% right.
Number one, which is what is alleged. Number two is there are a lot of people who truly believe that like a woman deserves certain treatment. And I want to like, I am the child of a person who watched an abusive dad not treat his children or wife well. There's a psychology of how the women are controlled in that environment. And unless you like understand that psychology, you really should just be quiet. Because like, I think you don't get it. Like I watched an interview one time with, and Jay-Z referenced in one of his songs where Farrakhan said like, you should be quiet to I think it was Wallace in one of the interviews.
Yes, Mike Wallace.
Right. And he was basically saying like, you don't understand the thing that you're saying, so you should just be quiet. Mm-hmm. And how I felt about this dynamic is unless you understand the power dynamics between abuser and abused and how control is initiated and kept going, then you don't understand why Cassie didn't leave. Mm-hmm. So, and there's no justification. I don't care if Cassie was using him for money and opportunity and everything else. Some of the things that are alleged do not give him the right to treat her that way. Mm-hmm. So that was the point of my video. Mm-hmm. Now, to answer my son's question, 100%, like mentally healthy people don't do the things that Diddy is alleged of doing. Mm-hmm. But here's the controversial thing I'm going to say. So yes, I think Diddy had mental health issues, and he probably had those mental health issues long before he became the person that we knew of as Diddy. Mm-hmm. But wealth and fame also produce mental health issues because you get used to the world catering to what it is that you want. And you eventually lose the ability to know that like there are boundaries in this world that you have to respect. And the more wealth and fame you have, the easier it is for you to lose that boundary. And the longer you are wealthy and famous, the harder it is to hold on to the reality that not everything in this world is accessible to you. And I think if I take a person who's got some troubles, and if what is alleged is true, Sean Combs clearly has some troubles, and then I give that troubled person unbelievable amounts of wealth and unbelievable amounts of fame, i.e. power, it's very easy to see how people lose the boundary between what is mine and what is not mine.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I mean, definitely, I think some mental health stuff was there. And I think that the defense has already attempted to make the case that he was, all high often, very often, and therefore not necessarily in his right mind. And we've argued this many times in different circles. I mean, and I don't know if you know this, but, I love Puff very much. I have a good relationship with him, and he has always been very good to me. I've never, ever witnessed any of this stuff. And that's generally what we say when you know someone and you love them and you've not seen it. But it does not make me numb to or confused about what I saw in that video and also other things that I just believe to be true. So I think that, and I always tell Mice, I think we as humans are walking contradictions, that, we can love Pookie knowing that Pookie did some crazy stuff, right? We as black folks say free John all the time. And it's like, bruh, John was over there bugging. You know what I'm saying? So, and I mean, as long as we're honest about it, I think that because when our young people are watching us, when kids are watching us as they grow up, they hear what we say and they see how we act and how we react. And when someone that we don't know does something, we are automatically, this is kind of like a question, you could just jump in, but we are automatically like, ill. There's an X on you because you are a person that either I don't know or I don't like. But when it's someone that we know, we have familiarity with, or, at some point we appreciated their art, their talent, their whatever, and they do something, then it's kind of like, well, he ain't never do it to me, or she should have done this, or why didn't she leave, or why didn't this happen or that happen? And I don't know about all the other things. I think we will see what a jury says about sex trafficking, or what a jury says about coercion and extortion and this and that and the third. But the abusive side, which is not what he has been indicted of, by the way, it's not him abusing Cassie is not there. That part, I don't understand how people are debating that.
I don't think nobody's debating.
No, I see. I'm not talking about you. You can't, because, no. I'm talking about, I see people online who are like, well, she might have done this or that and the third. And I feel like that may be because we have this contradiction of, if it was happening by someone else that we did not know or appreciate for whatever reason, we'd be really pissed about it. But when it's somebody we do know or have familiarity with, we can make excuses for them.
Well, we have a tendency, there's this thing in the psychological world that's known as confirmation bias, which means if I have a positive feeling towards you and I learn something negative, I have a tendency to disbelieve it. And if I have a positive feeling towards you and I hear something positive, I have a tendency to believe it. Or vice versa. If I have a negative feeling towards you and I hear something negative about you, I tend to believe it. And if I hear something positive while I think negative of you, I tend to not believe it. But the important thing is exactly what you said. It is okay to love someone and believe that they should be held accountable, because we live in a society. Like, for example, one of the things, now I have never assessed Diddy, so I'm not saying this is true, but if I were to assess him, one of the things that would be on the list of things I'd be considering is narcissism. And narcissists look for targets. And Tamika, you're not a great target. And they look for targets. They look for people with low self-esteem that can be more easily controlled. And they look for people that don't understand their self-worth. They look for people who need something from them that they can use to control them. And you would not be perceived by most narcissists as an easy target. So I'm not surprised that you would say, well, I always got this X, Y, and Z kind of treatment. Yeah, because you don't have the kind of personality that would have triggered him to do these alleged things.
And I was not always this person. And that's why I know that what you're saying is true, because there was a time in my life where I was, not living at home with my parents when I should have been. And then I had no money, so I was kind of like living from pillow to post, as they say. Not listening, not being respectful, dropped out of school. And so it put me in situations where people were able to take advantage of me because they knew this girl doesn't have her shit together. She's out of whack. She looks crazy. She's not well kept. And they knew, and they took advantage of that. And I'm taking Cassie and people like that off the table. But to your point, people know who they can do certain things with. Right.
That is absolutely correct. And narcissists are always looking for targets. Narcissists don't have relationships. And again, want to be clear, I do not know him to be narcissist, but that's one of the things on the short list I'd be considering. And they always look for targets. And you're not a great target. So it's not surprising that you would say, well, I always got treated pretty well. Because outside of the target, most people would say, oh, he was very nice and charming. I know a lot of celebrities that were at parties around him, and all of them have said to me, I wasn't aware of the things that were happening outside of what I saw at the white party. Right. And it's because none of them really lined up as targets. So they don't see it.
And see, me and my son and I argue this one point, that because my son knows a lot of guys who work for Puff. They were like raised not by him, but like, what would you say, in the environment. And
since '98, like I used to, Mace is a close friend of mine. I've been around. I know a lot of his
security staff,
personal, like people that were his personal assistants.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen different elements from '98 until now. I've known a lot of people,
and none of them. With the exception of Mace, because he said the man's evil and this and then the third.
I understand.
Put
what
him
you're saying.
to the side.
Yeah, with the exception of Mace, they had their own personal situation, and it was finance. It was based on finances. It wasn't based on a lot of the accusations that's dealing with now. But for the most part, they haven't seen this level of him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of them have, it's like, well, I know he was. They do deal with the narcissism, and they like, I know he definitely was the person that wanted to control, and he would do this and all of those situations, but they just didn't see. And I think, and I'm not even saying they didn't see this version, because what they're presenting inside this case, a lot of these things, is about control or whatever. So you have to take it, believe it, or you don't. But I just think that what the media was projecting prior to that just all these Diddy parties, and it was this freak offs where hundreds of people was in, and he was just taping people, and he was raping women and all that. That wasn't even a thing. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that's what it was, and I think most people were saying to themselves, like, nah, we when you saying this Diddy parties, like a lot of us had went to parties that Puff had, and we never seen any of the situations like this. So I think that was the mindset going into the trial. Now when you look at the trial, you realize it's more geared around his personal relationships and how he carried on his sex life and how they utilized it and the people he utilized to control or whatever they're alleging. So it's a different premise than it was before,
Right.
And that's what had a lot. Those were the conversation I was having. I was like, I know too many people that wouldn't be in the circumference of all this shit that they talking about. It just wouldn't happen in that manner. So now when we look, and I was like, okay, this is that man personal life. For the most part, it's him and the people on his staff that were, he was utilizing them within his personal sex.
So they say. They say.
That's what the accusations is, but that wasn't what they were saying before.
The way they project. In other words, but Mice is, I hear what you're saying. I don't have to translate it, but for my own whatever, is that the media made it seem like it was just any party you went to, because people would actually say that to us and to other people, like, oh, you was at a Diddy party, so it was a freak off, because in their mind, you walk through the door and immediately, in order for you to be here, you got to get down. And that's just not the case. To your point, most of the environments that we've been in have been fantastic, beautiful, everybody enjoying themselves. And then if these things are true, to your point, it goes on at a time when folks don't see it, which is another part of how people get away with some of the things that they do. And again, not talking about Diddy so much, but the broader perspective is that a lot of people have another life that folks don't know about. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but anyway.
And think about the way power exists. Like, if I'm aware of the other life, as you put it, and he is Sean Combs, and everybody loves him, and they love his music, and they love his work, and he donates to charity, and he does this, and he does that, and I accuse him of something, it is very often that the woman is not believed. And most women live in a world where it's like, I'm afraid to say anything because that person is very powerful. So all I can say is, and this goes back to what you were saying, Tamika, like, I wish the internet would just take a pause. And part of the reason I wish that is people overvalue their opinions and think they should be able to share them about things they know nothing about. I have no idea what Diddy was doing in his personal life. And I think a lot of the stuff that Mice was just referring to is just like the media and people on social media, like sharing their opinions and thoughts. Just because you like that dude's music doesn't mean that he didn't do every single thing alleged in the indictment. And we need to just sit back and let the courts like review the evidence and say what happened and what didn't happen and live with what the judgment is.
Well, how do we say that? Because we don't live with the judgment of a whole lot of things. We get upset. We say that black men are being railroaded. Now you see that this issue with Tyler Perry has come up. And I don't know if you read all the slides? Because I read all the text messages in the slides.
I read some of them. Yeah, I read some of them.
And I, it was some funny business. I can tell that, clearly this was a relationship that's outside of excuse me. This was a relationship that was outside of the boundaries of a work employee relationship. And I keep telling everybody that I work with, everybody that will listen to me, people probably so tired of me saying over and over again that you have to be very careful when you're the boss and you work with people and the types of relationships that you carry on with people, because it doesn't matter what that person is saying to you. They could be laying on the table, butt naked, everything open, begging you to take it. And the moment you touch it, you are the one with the power in that situation. And I keep telling people that, but nobody wants to listen to me. But you do have this element of folks who are like, well, R. Kelly and now Puff, and then, of course, Bill Cosby, and then now here we go with Tyler Perry. So all the big time, very successful black men seem to be taken out around sexual things, harassment, rape, things like that. And folks are not willing to accept that. They just like, this is, even if they don't like these people.
Right. Well, I want to be really careful, make sure I express myself accurately here. One of the best things that you can do to protect your mental health is mind your own business.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yes, it is.
But it's true. It's absolutely true. If I want to be a mentally healthy person, I got to mind my own business, which I think is harder to do in today's age than it's ever been before, because I have access to more of stuff that is not my business than ever before. But I have to recognize that if I want to have a healthy life and take care of my own mentality, I've got to learn how to mind my own business.
And drink water.
And exercise, whatever. But like, just mind my own business. Now, connected to that, I don't have to like the system, and I can oppose the system. But in an individual basis, I don't know what Tyler Perry did or didn't do. I don't know what he said or didn't say. So I'm gonna just not judge that. But I'm not unaware of the pattern that black men seem to be targeted once they get a certain level of wealth. And I can say I oppose the system that seems to be targeting black men, but I don't know that specific black man didn't do exactly what's alleged. I really don't know. I wasn't there.
But how do you reconcile those two things when people feel like they're constantly attacked by the system? And now here we are in a situation where one after the next, it's like they drop like flies. I mean, what was his name? Cuba Gooding. I mean, every time you turn around, it's one of us. Even Elliot, what's his name? The one from the movies that, as far as I'm concerned, he was over there trying to protect himself from that woman. What's his name?
Oh,
gosh,
the guy that was just in Creed.
Yeah, the one who is in a relationship with
Megan Good.
Megan Good.
Oh yeah.
Jonathan Majors. Look at what happened to him. Like, people will have their own opinion, but it was very clear. The man told the lady to leave him alone. He got out the car. He ran from the lady. Yes, did she have bruises? Yeah, she did. But nonetheless, they got into whatever they got into. And like my son says, toxic relationship shit happens. And then on top of that, then he gets away from her. And now somehow he becomes like he loses everything, right? As a result of that. So I'm just saying it's kind of hard for people to be able to decipher. And again, I'm not saying whether folks did right or wrong, because if you bring R. Kelly up around me, like my whole birthday, people kept playing R. Kelly at all the parties. And it was really making me upset. But when I turn around, everybody was having such a good time that I said, here go Negative Nancy. Want to go over to the DJ, and the DJ is into it. Like, yeah, and they doing, somebody knocking right. And everybody's having a good time. And here I go, Negative Nancy, finding my way to the DJ booth to say, please don't play R. Kelly. I did it the first night at Sylvia's. The DJ looked at me a little bit like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we don't play R. Kelly. But as every day went on, it's kind of hard to always be the one. But I don't want R. Kelly played at my parties. I don't listen to R. Kelly. I don't want to hear it. So I'm not trying to say that I'm defending any of them, but I can understand, especially as a black man, watching one after the next, and on top of that, cousin Pookie, cousin John, and even maybe me, we're all caught up in this system that just finds everything wrong with us. And it's hard for me to just sit here and be like, yeah, these people did all these things and they all need to go to jail for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I don't think all these people did all these things and they all should go to jail for the rest of their lives. And they all deserve advocation when and if there are improprieties. But I want to go back. Like, again, so let me bring up confirmation bias. One of the ways that racism works, let's say I have a bias against Black people. And as a consequence of that bias, I don't look at my son and see an upstanding, good person. Mm-hmm. And then I see my son in a video with a woman running from him. It is very easy for me and my negative bias to believe a negative thing about him. So when someone then says, my son was being inappropriate with that woman, that's how the system works, because there's a negative bias against Black people in the system. So Black people end up overcharged. They end up frequently charged when non-Black people wouldn't be. And one of the things that I would say, and I have lots of conversations, like if you were a Black celebrity, you have probably called me within the last couple of years and we have probably met. And I have to tell them, like, you have to know you exist in a society that doesn't look at you and give you grace. So that means if you find yourself in a toxic situation, you are now risking all of what you have built. You have a higher responsibility because you have to be aware you live in a society that wants to see you fall. That's just the reality of what it's like to be a successful Black man. So if I said, oh, I got a secret video of my son, some woman running from my son, people would want to watch that. But if I said I got a secret video of somebody running from Mr. Rogers, they're probably not as interested. Because they know the bias doesn't exist and people have a hard time believing it. So we have an unfair.
We're black out here. That's what you said. We Black out here.
Yeah, we Black out here. We have an unfair responsibility, but that responsibility is still there. And that is, I have to be very careful with how I live my personal life. I have to be very careful with what I do. Like, can an average person send inappropriate text messages to their employees? Probably, because nobody cares. But if I was sitting there talking to Tyler Perry, I would say, if you want to say these things, go over and say the things to the person.
Yeah.
Because you text them, you're giving evidence, and that evidence will be devoured by the world differently simply because you are a Black man.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up.
We're gonna wrap it up, but I just want you to as we leave for Men's Mental Health Month, give, just as Black men, right, give us just one piece of advice to deal with all these things that we have to deal with every day, understanding the dynamic, understanding that we Black out here. You know, what would be just a piece of advice that you can give just every Black man for Mental Health Month?
Fight. That's what I would say. I would tell every Black man to fight on the battlefields with which they're capable of fighting. Fighting and advocation leads to hope, and fighting and advocation leads to change. So I would say advocate, push the boundaries. Like, my way of fighting is I'm a Black psychotherapist, and roughly 10% of all psychotherapists are Black. It's a wildly underrepresented community. And one of the ways that I fight is I exist in these white academic worlds. And a lot of my books are academic. And I will go to conferences where I am the only Black person on the stage speaking. And one of my ways of fighting is making sure I show up and I represent my culture in the way that I do that. It's in the way that I dress, talk, walk, act. It's in everything that I do. One of the ways that my son fought is he made sure he was aligned with a basketball player and he doesn't wear Nike anymore. But whatever your battlefield is, make sure you fight. This world is not fair to us. It is a threat every single moment of every single day. And we have to fight. And in that fight, we also have to understand that the best way we can fight is economically. We have to understand that dollars win fights. And there are two examples that I can give. The first one, I'll be current. The first one is what's happening with the boycott with Target. The Target boycott is one of the most effective financial boycotts of the common era. And it's leading to conversations within Target because they are losing massive amounts of money simply because Black people said we're not going to spend our dollars there. And economic fighting is one of the best. And the other thing I'll say about an example of that is Rosa Parks. Now, we were told, or I was told when I was studying history, that Rosa Parks and the bus boycott in Montgomery was because Rosa Parks didn't sit down, and it led to this huge uproar. And then eventually the bus companies allowed Black people to sit wherever they wanted on the bus. But that's actually not the full story. The full story is well, first of all, there was a woman before Rosa Parks that wasn't the ideal candidate to trigger this boycott.
Claudette Coleman.
There you go, exactly. So they got a more ideal candidate in Rosa Parks who intentionally did what she did. And then they used that as an opportunity to stage a boycott. Now, what they don't tell you is that all started because the bus companies raised their prices by a penny per ride. And they knew the predominant population using the bus were Black. So now we got to pay more to be treated poorly. The Black people said, no, this is not going to work. So we're not going to ride on your buses. The bus boycott lasted over a year. And in that time, the church community created carpooling to make sure Black people could get to their appointments and to their jobs and those sorts of things. There were 3 bus companies in Montgomery, Alabama, when the boycott started, and 2 of them went out of business, meaning they would rather go out of business than serve Black people with dignity and respect. Wow. The remaining bus company thought to themselves, if we sort this out, we will be the last bus company remaining, and thus we'll get all the business. And that is why they stopped that increase of up to a penny, and they stopped having Black people sit in the back of the bus. So we think of this as like, oh, this woman got really tired and she didn't sit on the bus and the bus companies decided to change. That's not true. Wow. We gave economic punishment to the bus companies for the way that they treated us, and that's what led to change. So if you're going to tell me what's one thing that I would say that Black men in particular need to do, it's fight. Because in the fight is hope that the fight will lead towards change. And the most powerful thing in any journey of mental health is hope. So everyone needs to fight on the battlefields with which they have access to. My son, he has a large audience. So one of the things he did to fight was, I'm going to throw these Nikes away and I'm going to make a video of me doing it. I'm going to explain why. That was an advocatory step by him. Now, the average person who might be like a gym teacher or whatever, you got to find what your battlefield is. Right. But we need to fight. We need to fight collectively. We need to give economic punishments to people who refuse to teach us with dignity and respect. That's right. And in those actions, it leads to hope for change.
That's right.
You the man, Elliot.
Elliot Connie, man. I tell you, you guys make sure you tap into Family Therapy, his podcast on the Black Effect Podcast Network. He is our sibling in this space, and we appreciate our brother Charlemagne the God and all of the team members there at Black Effect Podcast Network for giving us a platform to be able to share information and topics that some people might not find to be the trending topics.
But we got the needed topics.
But if you listen to what we're talking about, it is absolutely trending because it's trending in our lives. And mental health awareness is trending, as you said, Elliot, every single day. It's not just during a month for our men. It's not just during a moment for women, for families, for anybody. Every single day we're dealing with issues and trying to figure out ways to stay sane in a society that is completely out of control, whether it be the overstimulation of what we have on our phones every day, watching us be killed, watching our rights be rolled back, looking at a president who is our president needs you. You should call up to the White House and say, my name is Elliot Connie and I don't support you, But I feel like
need
I
some
can help
services.
you. You
You
need
need
my
my
help
service. Yeah.
for real, because the brother is in trouble. I mean, seriously. And I was thinking the other day is that I think presidents get held hostage, right, by their own team members, and because it's very clear that like when he comes out and he says, "Well, we can't really continue to deport the farmers." And we got to make sure that the hotels are good. He says all these things which would have made sense in the beginning, and then days later he goes to like, no, we're going to go back and go hard, and ICE needs to get out there and do what they need to do. It tells me that from the moment that he speaks until he goes back in the back room somewhere, he's got people who are white nationalists, like a man by the name of Stephen Miller and others, who are telling him we have to stick to the Project 2025 plan, even though he knows, because he is
not sustainable.
even as a failed business person, he, in some people's minds, they're like, he's not that failed shit. He made it to be president of the United States, and he lives in the Trump town. Like, it doesn't matter if he has cash. People don't care about if you have cash in the bank. They care about what kind of car you drive, what kind of plane you fly on. They don't know that you got to trade your ass for your head. They don't care about that. They just want you to have the stuff that looks like you have success. And so he looks like a very successful man. He's got Trump international hotels. He's got all of this stuff. These people, they think he knows what he's doing. And guess what? He knows that his businesses will not work without the population that they are trying to destroy in this nation. And that is the immigrants that make up a huge part of the workforce in America. But you know what? He can't just go off and do and say whatever he wants, because he promised all these people that he was going to help them fulfill their agenda. And now he's stuck having to do it, or else they'll be like, Elon had different issues. So Elon said, I'm going to put the shit in the newspaper. The other people, they say, we control your security detail. But let me be quiet. All right. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk,
Lord have mercy.
Elliot Connie.
I agree with every word. And I would love to call it white. I wouldn't say I support you, but because I don't.
I said you don't. I said you don't. I don't support you, but.
Yeah, no, I don't support you, but you do need help.
Yeah.
But again, narcissism would be on the very short list of things I would be thinking about if I were to assess him too.
That's full circle.
Yeah, so we live in a really difficult world, and I think it's hard being black out here. I think it's hard being anything other than a cisgender white male. And I think we have to. I think we got to fight. Like, I really mean that. Like, fight is a strong word and it evokes emotion. But we'd have to advocate, and we have to stand up. We have to do what we think is right, and we have to bond together. When we bond together, we're essentially unstoppable, and history has bared that out.
Yeah.
So we're not always great at bonding together, but when we do, mountains literally move.
That's right.
And history has absolutely shown that. And on some level, I almost don't care how big the barrier or obstacle or oppressive attempt you put around my people, because we have a historical history. We have a pattern of overcoming everything put in front of us. So all you're doing by doing the crazy things you're doing with Project 25 is you're giving our future selves a story to tell, because we're going to overcome this too, because that's what we always do.
Absolutely. Well,
That's
I
the
just
word.
hope that we don't all perish in the midst of these people's wars that they're creating. But, we, like you said, even that will be okay. It's good to see you. Everybody
Always.
needs an Elliot Connie in their lives. So get you an Elliot Connie, and you can go listen to him at Family Therapy on the Black Effect. And you can go listen to Elliot Connie at Family Therapy on the Black Effect Podcast Network.
Y'all, thanks for having me. I love y'all so much. I support everything that y'all
Love you too,
do.
King. We appreciate
And
you.
the voices that you guys are for Black people is incredibly powerful and impactful. And I hope you guys always know that. So when I say fight, I think you guys are great examples of people who advocate for what you believe in, and always do that.
Thank you.
All the
Thank
time.
you, our brother.
Peace, King.
That was good. I mean, listen, here's the thing. He is like, what I like about Elliot, and there are people who they do one thing and that's all they can talk about. is like one thing that, you know, whatever. If it's therapy, that's all they want to talk about. If it's politics, that's all they want to talk about. With him, you can go from politics to mental health to hot topics of the day, and he's able to sort of cover the gamut. And so that's why I like talking to him. I spend a lot of time listening to the things he says and trying to get his take. And like he says, we don't always agree. But I agree with him more than I don't. Not like you, I don't agree with all the time.
He's very sensible, and he's very descriptive, right? And he breaks things down to where you like he doesn't leave room for you to be like, well, what about? It's like he's very good at what he does.
Yeah, he is.
You know, so.
But you know, and he's also mature. You can tell he's lived through some life. You know, and that's important. I mean, I think even with us, like, when we're talking about things, sometimes people may not get it. Yeah, that's true. People don't always get it. And it's like, you will, you know, but we have to learn that.
Yeah.
Because we've been ahead of our time on issues.
All the time.
And then next thing you know, everybody's saying what we already said.
Yeah. It's very strange. That brings me to my I don't get it. I have two I don't get it.
Oh my God.
Two. One of them is gonna be really quick. I just don't get anybody that still is a Trump supporter. Like, I just don't get it. At this point, you're dealing with mental health. You're dealing with something that you need. Elliot Connie. You definitely need to go see Elliot Connie. If you're looking at Trump right now, where we are right now, the man who said he was going to end the wars on day one, who has made every other war worse and about to have us on into World War III. If you're still trying to convince yourself or anyone else that Donald Trump is a good president, you're dealing with you're really dealing with some shit that we can't help you. Elliot Connie might be able to help you, but I can't help you. I know Tamika can't.
My son, you should not say that. We should be willing to help our community.
No, we can't. We can't help anybody that right now, if you in your home and you're like Trump, you are dealing with Jim Jones cult like mentality, where you might drink poison and jump off the roof because you just don't even realize where you are at this point. So that's just my first I don't get it. My second I don't get it, it's a little more logical.
Serious.
It's serious, but you know, if you live in Harlem, from Harlem, if you from New York City, you know that there is an unwritten rule that during Malcolm X's birthday that the stores closed down. A lot of people didn't know. Tamika said she didn't even realize.
I didn't know nothing about this.
She didn't know. So what I know is that on Malcolm X's birthday, there is a 3 to 4 hour window that they shut all the stores down. I think it's from like 1 to 4. It's 3 hours. I think it's like from 1 to 4. All of the stores shut down out of respect for Malcolm X, you know, and it's been going on for years. I happened to be walking on 125th Street during this, and I was about to go in the store. They're like, yo, we got 5 more minutes because we got to shut down. I'm like, what you mean you got to shut down? And I was like, oh, I forgot it's Malcolm X's birthday. And they were doing a march. You know, you see them walking down the streets. And I ended up going somewhere else, driving off and leaving. But later on that day, I seen that Chick-fil-A, who's only been there probably about a year now. I don't even know if Chick-fil-A has been on 125th Street a year, but they didn't honor this shutdown. Like every other store, I think from Lenox down to St. Nick, all the stores are closed on 125th Street. And Chick-fil-A didn't want to honor it. And I seen people outside, and they refused to let people in. Like it was a mob. Like, so if y'all not gonna.
Oh, you saw the protest?
Yes, literally saw the protest. Like
I didn't know.
Yeah, and they were standing in front of Chick-fil-A, and they refused to let people in. And it's like, for me, I would think that if you come to a community as a corporation, organization, franchise, you would want to respect the rules of the community, because every other store, Planet Fitness, Foot Locker, Jimmy Jazz, I mean, you name the stores, all of them, Kentucky Fried Chicken, you name any store, they understood. They had their signs in their windows, store will be closed from 1 to 4 in observation of Malcolm X's birthday. I don't understand why would Chick-fil-A not get the memo? And I know somebody gave them the memo.
How do you know?
Because it's a thing. Everybody knows. They what they do is they go down the street. I think they go down like a day or two before, and they notify you.
A day or two is not enough.
It is to notify you that the thing is going to be shut down. Because we giving you a whole day like this.
Well, I just said a day or two is not enough. It doesn't. I'm thinking, you know me. I think about process. So I would say that people need a lot of time in order to know so that they can prepare themselves and just know what they have to do. However, it doesn't matter. If they found out 2 days before, if everybody else is doing it,
respect the
then
community.
It should be. But, you know, a lot of times, some of the people, and I don't know if this is inappropriate to say, so I'm apologizing from the gate, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Because we used to say this, but it's a lot of things we used to say we can't say no more. But a lot of those folks are foreigners. They like the owner or the managers, the people who run these businesses. They're not really from here,
but
don't know our history.
But the thing is, the manager's supposed to call a corporate office and let them know.
But the corporate office is automatically getting ready to tell you that they don't observe,
that's
they
not
don't
true,
know.
Because that's not true. Because every other, this is what I'm trying to tell you, you have every other franchise that closed their doors. And I know the people in the store, they don't have the authorization to say, yeah, we going to close. No. They got the word from okay, we're going to respect the community. Because I already think it's disrespect that Malcolm X doesn't have a national holiday.
That's
so cool.
facts.
But the fact that you won't even observe the little bit of thing that he got from a 6-block radius, that you just shut your store down for 3 hours out of respect, and the community demands that. So when I watched the people outside of Chick-fil-A, and they was like, well, listen, if you don't respect Malcolm, then you can't. We don't respect you.
Yeah,
and I actually haven't been back to Chick-fil-A since.
Well,
then.
you shouldn't eat it no way.
I mean, I don't. My kids like to eat it, so once in a while I buy it. But now when they be like Chick-fil-A, I'm like, nah, they don't respect Malcolm X, so we ain't going there.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I agree with you, and I think that they got one protest, which was a warning. Now. And I don't know if folks want to wait all the way until next year, but they probably will to see if these people do right next year. But you can't forget about it. You have to make sure that next year it's clear. Okay, let's see what you're going to do. And the next time, if they don't do it, they got their warning. If they don't do it the next time, the whole...
Shut them down.
It has to be months.
They got to get the target treatment.
You can't even eat at that particular store. It has to be closed. You can't stay there. That you take a page out of New Era Detroit's book where they're like, you can't even open your doors in our community.
Yeah, we ain't letting you in.
So I think that's it. I agree with you. I was just saying, like, we should make sure they have now been informed a year ahead of time. They have
definitely been informed.
But you know, the turnover in these places, the ownership, the whatever, it's a franchise. So it's not like the corporate office has but so much jurisdiction over what the local franchises do. Like the franchise, you know, there's a rule book that has, you know, certain things in it. You know, you can't have people, if the whole company shuts down on Sundays, for instance, you can't open yours on Sunday. But you don't necessarily have to follow every single detail. Your franchise has a little bit of room. So you got to find out, you know, so there's some work that has to be done. But I think that what it has shown is that the people ain't playing. So hopefully you just shut shit down for 3 hours and be quiet.
Chick-fil-A, don't go on that Target list now.
Oh, well, there's that.
Shut it down. And with that said, we've come to the end of another episode. We appreciate, shout out to our guest today, Elliot Connie, extraordinaire psychologist.
No, he is a psychotherapist.
Psychotherapist. He is an amazing individual. Like, he's so cool. Like, every time I see him, he always gives me love, hugs, and you know, always gives me my flowers, and I give him his. He's a dope dude. Once again, continue to follow us. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Give us ideas about guests that you want to see. Let us know some topics. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us. Tell us anything. Make sure you follow us at TMI_show on Instagram, and on YouTube is TMI Show PC. I'm not going to always be right. Tamika D. Mallory's not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, be authentic.
Peace.
So.
That's how we own it.